Hi, I'm Jill Gostin, the IEEE Region 3 Director. I hope you find these volunteer resources useful and informative. This is one of several modules which provide training and informational resources for individuals serving in volunteer roles at the IEEE Region, Section, and Chapter level. In 2020, our annual Region 3 conference had to be canceled due to COVID-19. Because of that, we quickly decided to go virtual. We held WebEx meetings to provide the training and information that was to be given to volunteers at the conference, and we recorded those sessions. These recorded modules created the foundation for our IEEE Region 3 Volunteers YouTube channel. The value of these recorded modules has become very evident, so we will continue to build on what is offered here. If you have suggestions for additional content, please leave a request in the comments below.
Welcome everybody. Thank you for taking the time to participate in this webinar. Some of you may know that we did 3 back in the last month on running WebExes, all for the purpose of helping our sections be able to find ways to still connect with their members while we're under, the social distancing guidelines right now. So that was all about how to run meetings and both technical and organizational meetings by WebEx. And it also gives you a background for being able to do some meetings in the future through WebEx. And now what we're focusing on are the training sessions that we were going to run at Southeast Con. Before Southeast Con was canceled, we had plans to do several training sessions for the different section officers for how to use tools, how to manage your finances, etc. And so we are turning all of those sessions into webinars during this month. Some of the days they're going to be on the Wednesdays of May, except for one Wednesday. And some of the days we'll have one of those training sessions, kind of a longer version, and some will have 2 different training sessions. But I hope you'll join in for those. And then in June, we'll focus on some ideas for holding new events. But I'm very thankful to the people, especially part of the section support committee. That team has stepped up to host these events and to present the material, the training material. And so I'm very thankful to them. Mark's actually doing 2 of them, I think. So thank you, Mark, and I will turn it over to you.
Okay. I want to thank everybody for joining. Looks like we're still adding folks on the line, so that's good. Looks like we've got about 21 people on the meeting. So just as to point out, this is the event mode of WebEx, and so you won't be able to see all the people that are logged in. You'll only be able to see the panelists, and currently that's 3 of us. But I do want to thank everybody for joining. I do want to emphasize that, the Section Support Committee is here to help you as you try to adjust, and I'm going to try to use that word, but to adjust to the new normal, whatever the new normal ends up being. But I think we're going to have a situation where the normal becomes an evolving thing. So using the tools that are available to you as a section officer is one of the primary ways that you can work with your members and support your members at the local and section level and the chapter level to be effective in delivering information to them and delivering the normal meetings that you would have in the section, also chapter meetings, etc. So sit back. We will get you through the list here, and hope you are able to get something from this. So one of the things that I want to make sure of is that we're talking about the 2 things here: introduction to tools for the sections, and then we're also going to talk about the advanced tools. This was a 2-part course at Sections Congress at Southeast Con, but we've combined it today, and so that's the reason for the hour-long duration on the session here. So the thing that I want to emphasize is, the objective of the session here is to review the tools and give you the insight and the knowledge of how to use those tools, including basic tools and the advanced tools. So basically, to get a general understanding of each tool, what you would use it for, how you can find it. There's a lot of links in the presentation, and you'll see that on each of the charts, I've tried to make it so that you can go to those tools and use this presentation, which I'll email to all the people that attend, but be able to go to each of the tools from the material here. The one thing I want to focus on initially is that, the resources sites that you have available to you. The primary resource site is, of course, going to be the MGA volunteer resource site. When you log into that, you'll need to use your IEEE credentials to get to log in and get full access. But you can go into that, and it will give you a easy reference of the different tools you have available to you, including VTools and OU Analytics. So then if you use one of those other links that's in that site, the volunteer development gives you career development information and access to the Center for Leadership Excellence. One of the primary resources you have available to you as a leader is this CLE site, from the standpoint of being able to get information on specific officer-specific training. So in other words, if you're the chair or the vice chair or the treasurer, there's role-specific training that's available to you. And I can't emphasize enough the value of being able to get into that training, and it will help you out individually on what you need to do, what your role and responsibilities are as a section leader. And again, these links are live, so when you get the presentation, you'll be able to go straight to those links using this. The CLE site, again, I want to make sure that you understand, how important this is. It gives you an excellent site to be able to go in, and again, this one requires access with your IEEE account, but it's got self-paced training. It's got all kind of action plans on being effective in your role. So please take some time. Go to this site, look at what's available there, and I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised by how effective the training is and how easy it is to navigate the site. One of the key resources you have available to you is IEEE VTools. I think most of y'all probably are familiar with VTools, but I do want to step through some of the core tools and then the advanced tools that you have available to you. It's one of the things that I think really stands out is some of the improvements that have been made. There have been a lot of enhancements, especially to the event tool, and so we'll walk through some of those. The one thing that you'll notice, and again, in the event tool, is that you can promote events, and those are promoted worldwide. Some of the things that I've even learned recently that are very, I'll call them cool features, is the ability to connect your calendar on WebEx, or excuse me, on Google, your Google Calendar. You can link your Google Calendar to your event in VTools at the region level or section level, and be able to pull into your Google Calendar whatever's posted in events, and it will display on your calendar so that you can see what events are occurring in the region or the section, and you can put as many different calendars on your Google Calendar as you want. I found that about couple of weeks ago, a month ago, and it's been really helpful to be able to see what's going on across the region. The main thing that want to look at here is the process of actually using the events, but if you need help with that, I think most people are familiar with it, but if you need help with events, let one of us know. We'll be glad to do a one-on-one session if you need some pointers on how to use that. The other thing is VTool officer reporting. You need to be able to manage your section volunteer roster. I think you've probably heard the need to make sure that your officers are current. Be sure you place the end date of when that officer will be active in role, because that is a key resource for Pat Donahue to be able to know who the current section officers are, when they go out of position, and that type thing. Those are key drivers for a lot of the reporting and things that we do within IEEE. So again, the link for that is here on the page. And I'm going to say this probably several times, but here again, if you need specific assistance with these, get a hold of me, Charles, or Bill to get that assistance. On voting, this tool has become extremely easy to use. I've used the older version, and they have made some significant improvements to it. It's really easy to build up a ballot and put it out there, and then be able to give your members the opportunity to vote using this method. It tabulates it. It comes up with all the information you need to know to push through a change in your leadership of your section. So really good tool. I think you'll find it's very helpful to be able to put that together. And I guess while I'm here, I'll go ahead and say, it's never too early to start working on officer elections. If you haven't already done so, begin thinking about your officers that you'll probably vote on at the end of the year. Get your past chair to lead your nominations committee, and get that started early so that you can get a full roster on your officers. And it's again one of those things that you just really cannot start early enough on. But this is a really cool, neat feature that's on VTools. The other thing I want to call out is, we do have different options available to us for conferencing. Charles has been holding several sessions on exactly, how to use WebEx effectively. There's two different modes for WebEx. There's WebEx for meetings, and the WebEx meeting is the traditional form that you've always seen with WebEx. The version we're using, or the functionality that we're using tonight with WebEx, is called WebEx Events. WebEx Events is for something more of a larger audience, where you may have a presentation from, say, a distinguished lecturer or something like that. It gives you a little bit more control over the interaction of the participants on the call, and it makes it a much more, I'll call it sophisticated, but professional delivery on your material. I saw Dave Green was on the call tonight. Dave and I and several other people have been using Google Hangouts, which has been relabeled. It's no longer Google Hangouts. It's called Google Meet, not Meets, but just Meet. And they've done a really effective job in putting out a basic tool. It does not have all the bells and whistles that WebEx has, but for most people, it's more than enough, and it provides the same basic capabilities as WebEx, being able to record their sessions, being able to take those recordings and make those available to participants and things like that. So I can't, if you're needing a meeting without having to get a WebEx set up, you can set up a Google Meet by yourself. You don't have to, and it's a feature that we get as a part of the Google G Suite that IEEE has an agreement for. So again, let me tell you, that it's free from the standpoint of use. WebEx is usage based, so if you can use Google Meets, I would encourage you to do that, because Google Meet is really a slick tool, and it doesn't cost us anything, whereas WebEx does. So just a suggestion on that point. But from the standpoint of conferencing, it's really good. I know that in some of the work that I'm doing with IEEE USA, they're doing some things with some other tools that allow them to live stream to Facebook and to YouTube. So some of those tools are really, really slick, but Google Meet is a very effective tool as well. Getting into some of the advanced tools for sections, and this is the part of the presentation that I spent some more time on to try to give you guys a little leg up on how to use eNotice. eNotice is a very slick and sophisticated way to get your notices out to members. One of the key points about eNotice is that it is GDPR compliant and makes and ensures that you do have the member's permission to send them communications. It gives you some very sophisticated ways to do, almost like mail merge and things of that nature. So it's a very slick tool. I don't know if who all has used it, but I would encourage you to use it for your section communications. One of the things that we do have is we found a problem with the way eNotice works, and we found a bug with the fact that some members may not be getting eNotice that you would expect to, and I'm working with headquarters to try to work through that issue and get a resolution. But overall, eNotice is really a good way to get your members contacted and do it in a very professional manner. Some of the things that I really wanted to go through on details was exactly the process of getting an eNotice set up. So if you go into eNotice, and of course you'll have to log in using your credentials, your IEEE user ID. You'll see the list of existing eNotices that are for your OU, which in most cases is going to be a section. And what you can do is there's a link up here that allows you to create a new eNotice. And so once you click that, you can then go in and enter the information that you have about how to or about the meeting you're trying to set up, or the eNotice you're trying to send out, rather. You'll input the basic information, and then you'll indicate the recipients, who it's from, the contents. The differences between a standard eNotice and an express eNotice is that a standard eNotice requires staff intervention due to user options that have been selected. If you start on the eNotice, and when you start entering information, the Send Express changes to green. And then if you hover over the Send Express to see the explanation, it'll help you understand why it's light green as opposed to dark green. And I've got in the star-looking thing, that is what it's supposed to look like if you can send express. If you can't, it's not going to be that dark green color. It's going to be light green color. But you'll walk through the process of creating your eNotice. You'll select the recipients, and when you do that, it will open up and give you the opportunity to indicate exactly which OU you want this sent to. Whether you want this sent to a specific chapter, whether you want it sent to a council, or where what exactly you want this eNotice sent to. And as far as sections, you'll only have your section and any subunits under your section. Region volunteers that are at that level can send to any section or any subunit of the region. So what you'll see is that section volunteers will see the region and council where appropriate, but it'll be grayed out, and then you'll see your section and subunits. And what I'm going to say at this point is, if anybody has any questions during this, go ahead and put them into the chat, and I'll try to manage those as we go through the process. After you do the selections on who you want to send this to, then you can go in and indicate whether you want to send it to actives, members, or members in arrears. If you want to limit who it goes to from the standpoint of you only want life members to receive this, or life seniors, or life fellows, or whoever. So over there in the big red box is the area where you would indicate specific member grades that you want to receive the eNotice. And so, it's pretty clear with what you're doing there, but but I did want to, and y'all are going to have to excuse me for a minute. I need to go get a glass of water. I'm sorry. Okay, so if you, as you can see, this is it's pretty effective way. You can really do some cool things on limiting who gets to receive the eNotice, and it's a very well done tool. Then you get into the from section, and you describe, okay, who is this going to come from? You can do some very slick presentations on how you want this to go. You can personalize the message, who it's coming from, where the replies are sent to. In the from, you would, it's recommended that you use an IEEE org or other affiliate email, so that you want to use, the section chair alias or the secretary of the section's alias to send the email. And then the contents. This is where you can get really slick with what you can do with this. You can personalize it using the drop-down options that are in the big red square. But where I've got the big red arrows is where you build out the personalization on what is going to be presented and who it goes to. What it does is basically does a mail merge, and it allows you to specifically, say who it's from, and get it really slick in the way it does it. So, as I point out, it does things like one of the bullets down there. It points out that it does the member's first name, last name, so that it looks like it's coming, personally to him. So this could be used with, doing some really slick things around. For example, if you wanted to send out some kind of an eNotice to members who are eligible for senior membership, and you want to get really slick with your your eNotice, that would be one way to approach it. So basically, as you'll see, what it says is on the back end, based on the logic that you built up earlier in the request, it pulls a list of members, does kind of a mail merge to personalize the data fields, and then eNotice does check the GDPR communications preferences of the member before it sends out the eNotice. Some best practices are described here. Use the outline to create a customized message. I think that goes without saying, but be able to one of the things you do here is you create a repository of messages. I want to emphasize that this then means that when you want to do send this same message 2 months later, a year later, you've already got that message built up. You can go in, update that message, and use it again to send out information. So, for example, on these training sessions, we can use the same eNotice to send out the announcement on this session and on all the sessions that follow. So, those eNotices are really handy for being able to do that. And of course, it talks about, if you need help getting started, use the templates on the development page. They're very handy to speed up the process of developing your eNotice. The next thing I wanted to try to go into, and let me pause for a second. I don't have any questions in chat, so I'm assuming that so far everything has been pretty straightforward. Which I guess one thing I'll go ahead and say again, when you get into this and you need some, I don't know about you guys, but anytime I'm working with something like this, it may look simple as all get out, clear as mud. Well, no, that's the wrong way. Anyway, it's very clear. And then you get on, and start working with it, and this is the point at time that becomes clear as mud. You can't figure out, okay, wait, I'm confused. So anytime any of you get onto this and you need help, let us know. We'll be glad to do the one-on-one sessions with you. On OU Analytics, I wanted to step through real quickly OU Analytics. I do have a detailed presentation that I'm not going to go into this evening, but I will provide it and put it out on the site so that you can download it, but it provides much more detail than I'm going to go into here at this point. For those of you that are familiar with OU Analytics, you know that the home page or the initial page that you start at has basically 6 different modules that it makes available to you initially. You go into each of those modules. You can look at student information. You can look at volunteer positions. The big one that you're going to be using is the members and affiliates, and also maybe the map. The membership, subscriptions, and more gets you into the really, that's where you can find out, who your affinity groups, who are members of affinity groups, who are members of your different chapters and societies and things like that. Students, of course, is going to help you understand your branches and all the volunteers that you have and the student members that you've got. The access to OU Analytics is not come without authentication and validation to make sure that as a section leader you have the ability to access this. But this information, member information, is not for general distribution, if you want to call it that. So I want to caution you, and especially with GDPR, we have to make sure that in using and in accessing member information, we're accessing member member information to allow us to effectively work with that member's subscriptions or deal with that member as a member of IEEE. It can't be used for anything other than IEEE business. It violates GDPR if you try to do something beyond that. And I want to strongly make you aware of the fact that you just don't need to do that, because it would put IEEE in a position of getting fines and even could be criminal prosecution or something like that. So be very careful. Don't want to discourage you from using this to support your members, but I do want you to be aware that this is one of the areas that you have to be very careful with and mindful of how you use the data. So when you go into MGA's site here and you access, and what you'll do is you'll go into the link here to OU Analytics, and you click on Access OU Analytics. It will take you to this screen, and you can look at announcements, training videos, new features, and service deactivation information. Once you get to that point, excuse me, I need to look at my own presentation. So one of the things that I found hard to locate was, exactly what has been added, what's new, and so I managed to pull together this information on what new features are out there. So this is just basically a list. I'm not going to read it, but it does give you a list of what new features have been added. Once you get to this point, then you can go in, look at, again, the data access policies, reference materials. You can join the OU Analytics user group. And then once you have reviewed all that material, and again, just emphasizing the GDPR, you can look at the various things that are available to you on OU Analytics. I'm not going to go into any specific, unless we have extra time, and I don't know. Well, we might. I'm not going to go into specifics. If you want, I could do a quick login and just show you how it works, but that would probably be best to do on a one-on-one sessions. The thing that I would like to emphasize, and again, these were supposed to be very short presentations, so I've stuck with that material, but the thing that I want to emphasize is to review the MGA volunteer site, familiarize yourself with the tools that are there, and especially complete the CLE training for your position. So those are the three things kind of for your homework assignment, if you want to call it that. And I want to thank you for attending tonight. And then I want to point out to you some additional resources that are here buried under the last part of the presentation. You can look at the Collaboratech. I think most of y'all are familiar with Collaboratech. I want to make sure you know that IEEE is on Facebook, it's Twitter. There's any number of Twitter and Facebook accounts out there to go after. Like there's an IEEE USA Facebook site and things like that. The other thing is, I believe that, let me look. No, there's more stuff. I forgot about that. So there's, this is kind of a list, a hot cheat sheet, if you want to call it that, of the links that were kind of spread throughout the material. So you can use this to go to various sites and quickly add those to your bookmark list, is what I did with them. But hopefully this will help you with understanding where you can go to get more resources and be able to use this as kind of your one-stop shop. I did include some material here on the learning network. This is something that you may or may not have heard about, but it is something that's out there that's relatively new, and it is a really good resource to get technical training and to get PDU hours and things like that. There is a cost associated with it, so it is not a member benefit, but there are discounts available. So I wanted to make sure you knew about this. And what I did was, here's an example of what courses are out there right now on solid state, circuitry and things like that. There's a whole list. I did not put that entire list into what I'm doing here, but you can click on this link and go to the IEEE, and it's again got some really good material on it. That is the end of the presentation. So I do have some questions here. Let's see. Can you elaborate on setting up the section VTools, election VTools? Let's see. Y'all close your eyes for a minute. And this is the election tool. Okay, so the voting. So it's a relatively easy tool to use. You go on into the site and just enter your information, and it will allow you to put in the member number, and it pulls up names and everything like that. That's its validation that this is an active member, so that you can make sure that the person is qualified to even be in the election. It will not let you put someone who is not a member in because their member number might be, like if they're in arrears, it won't let you put those people into the election. Probably you're looking at a gray screen right now. So let me do this. So let me go over here, and if you go over here into the voting tool, might as well just do a show and tell on some of this stuff if this is okay with you. Again, it'll take you to the sign-in screen. It'll want you to put your credential information in. Once you do that, it'll ask you, do you want to look at the ballots or ballot dashboard? Once you get to that point, then you'll see what I've got here is Alabama section officers. So this has got the 19 and 20 officers we'll be building. I'm actually in on the nominations committee, so we'll be building a new ballot out. But if you look at that ballot, and let me see. Yeah. So it will, allow you to look at that ballot, and evidently it's because of my status, it's not going to let me do everything I would want to. But you should be able to create a new ballot, and I'm not sure why it's not letting you do that, unless I'm not remembering exactly. They've updated this, and I haven't seen it in a while. So I may have to do some work to get access to it, although it seems like it's just slow to respond. So while it's doing that, let me look at one of the other questions. Yeah, here we go. All right, so here's the ballot dashboard. This is where I was really trying to go and didn't realize it. So you would go in here and you pick, you know, the organization you're doing the ballot for. You can choose a template. So like, for example, if this is a standard section, you know, you would go in and say, okay, I want to create and build my template from chair, vice chair, or maybe the XCOM. Maybe you want to go ahead and include, you know, your at-large members in the ballot. You pick what the template is. You pick the organization you're talking about, Alabama section, and you would then create that ballot, and then you could go in and populate the information about the candidates and fill in all the information related to their what they provided you in the way of a photo, biography, things of that nature, their credentials, so to speak. If you need more information than that, and let's see. I think I can do this right. All right. Did that? I think I unmuted you. Did that answer your question? Hello. Okay. Evidently, he's not. Oh, he just remuted. All right. So, I have another question. Will you mail a status of the Wait to me. Okay, let me read this whole thing. Will you mail a status of the eNotice delivery issues? We send eNotices via eNotice, but do not trust it. Why too many emails not arriving at recipients? Our section. Okay, so what we've found out is that there's a third-party suppression list, and we were going to request that they make some enhancements to eNotice to make those suppression lists visible so that you know who is on the suppression list that's not getting the eNotice, but is, so let me give you an example. You go into OU Analytics, you pull down a list of your members, and you see that John Doe says he wants to be notified for local events, and he wants to be notified from section and for all IEEE communications. If he's got yes in both of those flags, he ought to get an eNotice. What we found is that there is a suppression list behind that that blocks that person, even though it appears in OU Analytics that he should be receiving it. We're working with headquarters to try to resolve that and get a solution for that problem, because we believe that it's something that is a regulatory, beyond the fact that it's hurting your ability to communicate. We believe it's a regulatory issue. So we will be working with them to try to get that resolved. Ray Garcia, where does one submit the section meeting minutes? I'm not sure I understand that question. Ray, you should be unmuted. Can you help me understand what your question is again about section minutes?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. What I mean by that is I'm the secretary of my section, and as part of the meeting, there's meeting minutes that get approved on the next meeting. But they also they should be, and maybe this is not something that's done in IEEE because I just started as a secretary here. They should be submitted somewhere within IEEE. Is there such a section? If there is, where would that be? I looked on VTools and other places, and I could not, for the life of me, find it.
All right, so you're looking for a permanent repository for your section meeting minutes?
That's right.
Okay. I'm going to have to make sure I give you the right answer on that. I believe that you have various places you could store those. One of those would be even to put it on a section Google Drive, and that probably is going to be I believe will be the best answer. I do know that various sections have, maintained sites to keep their records on in the past. I don't know what the current correct answer is.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you for your input.
I'll have to check on that though.
Hey, Mark, this is Jill.
Yeah.
The minutes from the section do not need to be submitted to any specific unit in IEEE. They just need to be maintained by the section. So
Right.
it's really up to the section to decide how and where to maintain those. And what Mark suggested, a Google Drive, something like that is probably a good option. But I guess one question would be, where have they been kept before? So maybe you can find out what they were doing with them before.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I'm going to share the presentation with everybody that connected to the meeting and registered for the meeting. So I'll be sending all that out. What I'll actually be sending out is a link to the document. I'm not going to be emailing these large documents out to you and blow your email up. Okay, I'm getting a question. I think this goes back to the question on elections. And as the section chair, yes, you can set up an election. As the section chair, you have the permission to be able to do that. And matter of fact, I think probably the secretary of the section would be able to do it. All the officers of the section probably would be able to set up a ballot, but I'm not sure about that. It may be limited to the secretary and the chair, and then any VTool coordinators that you've got in that section. Okay, when we are sending to government and military email addresses, eNotices are being blocked. Okay, so unfortunately, if a domain is blocking eNotices, I don't know that there's anything we can do about that. I'll check to see how that would be handled. The only issue that we were aware of was that there were suppression lists that was being applied. Other than that, and let me ask you this, can you send just I'm assuming you can send just a regular email, it's just the eNotices that are being blocked? And yeah, the other suggestion from Bill is that they get an IEEE email, and they can even set their IEEE email up so that they get eNotices to the IEEE email and then forward those over to their government or military email address. That may be the easier way to approach it.